Hello friends, in this video we are going to talk about the salient features of the Indian Constitution, and here are some of the basic points that I've been able to mention, and I'll be explaining it to you in the following video. The first point, the Indian Constitution is very unique in its content and its spirit, as we all know, and it should be noted that it has undergone a substantial change on the count of several amendments, such as 42nd Amendment, 44th Amendment, 73rd or 74th Amendment. And mentioning about the amendments, the 42nd Amendment is also known as the Mini Constitution. And going through the salient features of the Indian Constitution, here we have the first point as the lengthiest written constitution. The Indian Constitution is the lengthiest written constitution, and originally it had like 395 articles divided into 22 parts and 12 schedules. Or abhi in 2018 it has like 448 articles in 25 parts and 12 schedules. And some of the factors that have contributed to the elephantine size of the constitution may be the geographical factor, that is the diversity and the vastness of the country. Second could be the historical factor, example the Government of India Act 1935, which was actually very bulky. The next would be the single constitution for center and the state, except for Jammu and Kashmir. Well, don't go by the handwriting, but I hope it helps. And the dominance of legal luminaries. So it is therefore the lengthiest constitution. The second would be it has been borrowed from various sources. For example, Government of India Act 1935, and the American and Irish Constitution, the British Constitution, and there are other constitutions from which it has been borrowed. For example, the British Constitution, from the British Constitution it has borrowed the parliamentary government, the rule of law feature, the citizenship, the cabinet system. From the Irish Constitution it has borrowed the DPSP part. From the Australian Constitution it has borrowed the concurrent list, the freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse. From French Constitution, republic and the ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity in the preamble, and so on. This is the second point. And in the third point, we would say that the Indian Constitution is neither a rigid constitution nor a flexible constitution, but it is a synthesis of both. Article 368 provides for the two types of amendments for the Indian Constitution, and you'll be studying about it in the later videos. And just going by the crux, it is neither a rigid nor a flexible constitution. And the next point is federal with unitary basis. So it is the Constitution of India establishes a federal system of the government. It contains usual features of a written two-government, division of power, written constitution, supremacy of constitution, rigidity of constitution, and so on. Indian Constitution also contains a large number of unitary or non-federal features. And the interesting part here is that the word federation has nowhere been used in the Constitution. Okay, and the Indian federation is not a result of the agreement between the states, but in fact, there's no but. No state has the right to secede from the Indian Constitution. So these are the two very important points that you would actually study, that Indian Constitution is not a result, Indian Federation is not a result of the agreement between the states, and no state has the right to secede from the Indian Constitution. So going to the next point now would be the parliamentary. So, like the British parliamentary system, Indian Constitution is also a parliamentary system. Is following a parliamentary system rather than American sort of a system, that is a presidential system. So here, the parliamentary system can also be called as Westminster model of the government, or it is applied in both center and the state. That is Yeah, so the next point is the Indian constitution can also be called as the prime ministerial government. And why is that so is that in a parliamentary system, whether in India or Britain, the role of the prime minister has become so significant, crucial, that the political scientists call it a prime ministerial government these days. So this is our fifth point, and well, going through the next point, we have the judicial supremacy. So yeah, we have judicial supremacy in the form that the judicial system that is integrated as well as independent. The single system of courts enforces both the central laws as well as the state laws. Unlike in USA, the Supreme Court is a federal court, and the constitution has made various provisions to ensure its independence. So there are security of tenure of judges, fixed service conditions for judges, all the expenses of the Supreme Court charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, prohibition of discussion on the conduct of judges in the legislature, ban on practice after retirement, and so on. So this would be our very important point, the judicial supremacy. And well, it has been borrowed by the American Constitution, which also gives us a feature of judicial review. Even though the scope of judicial review power of the Supreme Court in India is narrower than that of the USA that exists in USA. So this is the judicial supremacy. And going to the next point, we have fundamental rights, DPSPs, and fundamental duties. So going through the fundamental rights, these are very important to the Indian Constitution. And under fundamental rights, we have like 6 very important fundamental rights. The right to equality, that is from Article 14 to Article 18, right to freedom, Article 19 to 22, right against exploitation, that is Article 23 to 24, right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28, cultural and educational rights, 29 to 30, and right to constitutional remedies, that is Article 32. So all these rights we'll be explaining in some other video. So here the next point is the DPSPs, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. So the Directive Principles of State Policies, according to B.R. Ambedkar, these are a novel feature of the Indian Constitution, and these are enumerated in the Part 4 of the Constitution, unlike the fundamental rights, which are enumerated in Part 3 of the Constitution. Yeah. And well, the DPSPs are meant for promoting the ideal of social and economic democracy, and it is needed to establish a welfare state in India. And well, a very important point, that these are not justiciable in nature, unlike the fundamental rights. So the DPSPs could be divided into 3 parts, like the socialistic, Gandhian, and liberal intellectual. Okay, so yeah, these are the basic points of DPSPs, even though we have a list of DPSPs like the fundamental rights as well, and we'll be discussing all those in the later videos. So the next is fundamental duties. These were added during the operation of internal emergency by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 on the recommendation of Swarn Singh Committee. That is, the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002 added one more fundamental duty, and the Part 4A of the Constitution specifies the 11 fundamental duties. That is, some of them are to respect the constitution, national flag, and the national anthem, to protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of the country, to promote the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people, to preserve the rich heritage of the composition culture, and so on. So these are the basic fundamental duties that one should remember. And the next feature would be of a secular state. A secular state. So India is a secular state, It stands for a secular state, and it does not uphold any particular religion as the official religion of the Indian state. And it believes in like the word secular has been added in the added to the preamble of the constitution by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, and the preamble secures all the citizens of India liberty of belief, faith, and worship. The state does not discriminate against a citizen of the ground on the ground of religion, and there's equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters of employment or anything. And no person shall be compelled to pay taxes for the promotion of particular religion, and so on. So there are a list of all these secular all these as well. And a state shall endeavor to secure all for all the citizens a uniform civil code, which is under Article 44. So these are the basic points for secular state. And the next would be universal adult franchise. So one of the important point here is to remember that in a democratic country, the universal adult franchise adds to its very importance. And the 61st Constitutional Amendment Act of 1988 is very important here, as it reduced the voting age to 18 years from 21 years in 1989 by the 61st Constitutional Amendment Act. And the constitutional makers was a bold experiment and highly remarkable in the view of the size of the country. The universal adult franchise makes democracy broad-based, enhances the self-respect, prestige of the common people. So this was the basic universal adult franchise. And going to the next point is single citizenship. So Indian constitution is federal and envisages a dual polity, but it provides for all its citizens only single citizenship, that is Indian citizenship. Unlike countries like USA, India does not have a dual citizenship or anything, but a single citizenship for everyone. And the next point is independent bodies. So the independent bodies, constitutions does not only provide for legislative, executive, or judicial organs of the government, but also establishes certain independent bodies. And these could be in the form of election commission to ensure free and fair elections of the parliament and state legislatures, or the office of President of India and the office of Vice President of India, and so on. Then next would be like Union Public Service Commission to conduct examinations for the recruitment of all India services, State Public Service Commission in every state, or the Controller and Auditor General to audit the accounts of the central and the state governments, and so on. So these could be some of the very important independent bodies. And in the next point we have three-tier government, which is which you could understand by the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992, which provides the rural governments and the urban local governments under Part 4 and Part 9 and Part 9A of the Indian Constitution, listed in Schedule 12 of the Constitution. So the next is the emergency provisions, and emergency provisions could be divided into three parts, that is national emergency, state emergency, and the financial emergency. So under our national emergency is laid on the ground of war or external aggression or armed rebellion under Article 352. The state emergency is the President's rule on the ground of failure of the constitutional machinery in the state, and or the failure to comply with the directions of the center. So this is under Article 356. And the next is Article 360, which is the financial emergency, which is pulled on the ground of threat or to financial stability on the credit of India. So these are some of the very important basic features of the Indian Constitution. I hope I was clear enough, and please do let me know if you have any issues with the video, or like you if you need to give some feedback to the video, I'd be really thankful. And well, yeah, I'll try to put on and bring on some more videos regarding that. Thank you so much.